Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon, joined alongside of our Gabe Maynor here on what is becoming what'll probably be slow cleanup to the aftermath of the ice storm of 2026. In this broadcast, we'll be talking a lot about some of the ways in which that impacts us here in the Room to Room Weather Center. But one of the most substantial ways in which that is the case, of course, is related to power outages and the extreme cold on the way for tonight. You'll note here again, updates out of Tishomingo County. We'll talk to the emergency manager up there in just a moment about the issues that they are facing and the restoration efforts, the latest on that. Single digits move into tonight. Tishomingo, Tippah, Alcorn, Prentice, Union, Panola, Lafayette, all probably down into the single digits tonight. And in the majority of those counties, no, in all those counties, the majority of the people are without power. So serious concerns about this serious and dangerous cold that is moving in. And then a potential refreeze could be hazardous tonight. You can see some glossiness on the roadways there beside me in that camera location. That is one of our concerns. And so as we look at the first 12 here, we're 17 at 7, 12 as we look toward 10 p.m., 9 by 1 o'clock in the morning, 8 by somewhere around 4 a.m. And so somewhere in the single digits with a few spots, probably mid-single digits or low single digits near the Tennessee state line. Unfortunately, just a very, very rough time to have something like this going on with everything just being, everyone being without power like this in so many places. And joining me to talk about the latest there in Tishomingo County, we do have Peyton Burklight, the emergency manager there up in Tishomingo County. Thank you so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live at 6 p.m. I know you guys have been tirelessly working since before the ice started falling. What are your updates as of 6 p.m. tonight on Monday?
I think they made some progress today. At least it was dry and not as wet and cold, but still extremely cold. Our biggest issues are still the power outages and trying to cut trees out of the way for the power company. Our worst areas are still north of Iuka, around the Iuka area, and around Burnsville. Most of the south part of the county, it's just cold and a lot of people without power. Some people have gotten power on and then it's gone back out. Water associations lost water and then now they're back up. So it's just that constant, people start to feel good that they're making progress and then it goes out again. So everybody's doing everything they can.
And I think that's the thing that, like, in talking to you and talking to all the area emergency managers, there's a lot of things that kind of go, a lot of different layers to what is happening here, unfortunately. And it just takes time to be able to kind of get past and figure out all of those different things. Cold weather alerts, we call extreme cold warnings in effect for all locations in Mississippi. One of my concerns, I'm sure yours as well, is the folks that don't have electricity and are sitting there and they're at a spot where maybe they're homebound and can't get to someplace else. Do you guys have some way to transport them? Is that something that is on the roadmap, hopefully, the next couple of days? What should we be telling those folks for Tishomingo County?
We don't. Some of our medical people, we have had to get the ambulance in. They've come and transported to the hospital and all. We've had some residents that we've actually told them if they can get to the hospital, then they can charge their medical equipment, and that's worked out well. We have done several courtesy calls just to check on people and make sure. Again, the biggest issue is with no power, no heat, then people are getting stir crazy inside and not sure what to do as they run low on supplies.
And I think you and I talked about this at least earlier, the fact that, that preparation is not something that's built in. It takes effort. And it's something that, my kids are, we're running around like we want to use devices, and it was less than 24 hours. So, as the days start to stack up, trying to be in the right mental frame of mind, knowing that it's beautiful to live out in a remote place, but this is unfortunately one of the troubles with that, right?
Correct. I mean, I have disabled sister that lives with me, and trying to keep her off of her technology, and telling her it's not the end of the world to save and conserve her battery power has been a nonstop conversation with her. But again, people are getting low, even though they're trying to conserve power. So we're trying to find places that we can set up as warming stations, or at least places they can go and charge their phones, charge their technology, get out of the house some in the day, and then be back before dark. Most of our roads did look good today, so they were able to get out a little bit, but we are still trying to tell people to not go out any more than they have to.
Yeah, and
But
I'll share
today we
people at
did
home.
have
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
in Iuka and in Belmont, they had grocery stores open. We do have a couple of gas stations that are open. We have been able to do some generator backups and get some fueling stations up and stuff. So, like today was the best day yet, and it's just slow moving, and each day we'll do a little more and get a little more. We do have some warming stations at our middle schools in Iuka and in Burnsville. Golden Town Hall is open, so people can go in there. Tomorrow we have some supplies being dropped off, from blankets to some feeding items, water, things of that sort in the morning, that will be taken over to those warming stations. We also have the courthouse has power now, so if you're in Iuka, they can go there and charge, use the outlets to charge items and stuff. So again, each day is just going to get a little bit better, but it's just given, our power company is doing a fabulous job, but it's just giving them the time to find the issues and get to them, and continue to work to get that power restored.
Absolutely. It is a process. And by the way, the reason why you are hearing from Peyton and not seeing Peyton, if I pull it up on screen, is because you're not just talking about other people here. This is your life as well, out of power, like so many other people in Tishomingo County. That's unfortunately the universal thing that so many of us have dealt with. I'm fortunate again here in Lee County to have mine back up and running at this point here. But this is something that's touched basically everybody in your county at this point, and restoration efforts are continuing. So if you could, for me quickly here, or it doesn't have to be quickly, it could take as long as you need. Some of those warming shelters, you mentioned one in Golden, up in Tishomingo, I believe. Well, where are those warming shelters at? Again, one more time.
Golden Town Hall is open, and they have several people there, or they have some that have just come and go to charge. The middle school in Iuka is open. They've had several people. We've had to change sites around, but it's the middle school in Iuka, and it's open now. And then power got restored to the middle school in Burnsville, so they've moved their warming station there. And then tomorrow I should have more cots and blankets and stuff that we can take up there. Like I said, Burnsville has had donations of food and all that they've been serving. Hopefully we'll have some more come on tomorrow that will be helping out. But those are our three locations right now that people have been staying all night. The courthouse in Iuka is open, and it has more people just coming in to charge some of their phones and things of that sort. But yeah, this is something that has affected our whole county. We started with almost 13,000 people without power. They've restored some's come on, some's gone off. We still have majority of our county without power. And it really didn't matter how prepared people were. We still have the issues that surround it, things that you can't control. You were asking about me. My house has been without power since this started, and I thought I had a backup generator, but it came on for a little while and then it went back off. So, we've had phone service issues. We pretty much all of our infrastructure. So, everybody's just really dealing with what they can and moving forward.
I mean, doing the best you
We
can
just
is all
appreciate
you can do.
everybody's patience, and we're trying to, like I said, we're trying to get out to everyone. We've tried to do several courtesy checks on people. We've tried to, 911 has been taking several calls and getting volunteers or law enforcement or any of our people to go and check on them. We've had several people from other states and other counties calling and checking on family. Like I said, we've tried to do all these courtesy checks, and we're trying to work and just get people comfortable as we can. And the power company's working as hard as they can to get the power up.
Well, I know that you guys are absolutely doing everything you can to do this. This is just it's just a monumental task. You know, you and I talked earlier on the phone, you know, about just how widespread the damage is. And one of the things that struck me is, you know, comparisons to a tornado. You guys have had quite a few tornadoes up there in recent years in Tishomingo County, and you've obviously seen those. How would you compare this to a tornado coming through?
Well, now that it's happened, I hate to say that a tornado is easier to deal with than this has been. When a tornado hits, it usually affects one or two communities, and the rest of the county can all show their support and show up and help immediately start the recovery. With this being a total county event, I mean, everybody is just, they're still working together. They're still trying to help their neighbors, their family, their friends, but there's not the extra to blanket one area. It's everybody is spread out. All our crews are spread out. It's hard to tell if there's, you know, there's definitely not enough people in every area to help get things where we need to, but everybody has been patient and everybody is being helpful and everybody is out there. And there are people in every area of the county trying to make it better for everyone.
You know, we listened to the governor's press conference a little bit ago, and both he and the folks with the Mississippi National Guard were talking about the mobilization of assets and things to try to help. Have you heard anything from MEMA, from the National Guard, or from the governor's office about you know, for lack of a better way to put it, reinforcements on the way?
Yes, I have heard from MEMA. I have heard from our state representatives. We do have, like I said, Convoy of Hope is coming in the morning with some supplies that we'll be able to spread to the shelters. On we have requested generators, tarps, cots, blankets, water, food, and they're working on all of those avenues to try and get us some supplies.
Any timeline on any of that?
No, like I said, we have some of the cots, blankets, and stuff showing up in the morning, but like I said, everybody's just working to find items and see. I've had other counties that showed up today with generators that helped us, so we appreciate their help. I know Etowamba drove over their EMA today and brought me a generator that was really helpful to get our fuel reserves up. So we've been able to fill several vehicles and generators today, so that was helpful. But it's just a day by day, hour by hour, trying to do everything we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that people watching right now? I mean, there's two sets of people that are watching right now: those that are affected and those that are interested in helping. So for those, I guess, general citizens that are interested in helping, maybe outside the Tishomingo County area, is there any way that they can get involved at this point?
Not at this point, because our areas that are worst hit, the roads are impassable, and they're doing everything they can. As far as even some of our volunteers here in the county that have called today, we've asked them to just really check on friends, family. We've had them. I know some of the pharmacies were even checking on some of their medical customers and things of that sort, just to make sure that everybody had the basics that they need or that there weren't any issues. So mostly people have just been calling to check on all their friends and family.
Have you guys been able to get out to all parts of the county at this point? And what part seems to be the most heavily damaged?
Mostly we have, and mostly we have been able to do every courtesy check that we've been asked. But like I said, that north of Iuka up to the Tennessee line, I know 911 has talked to several people, but they are still trying to put eyes on people and try and help. And we have had some people that could move some people around. We've had to station some ambulances and actually pull people from homes to the ambulance because the ambulance couldn't get by. But we have been in communication. 911 has even talked with Tennessee to see if they can get to some of the roads that we couldn't get to. And like I said, we last night they even had a situation where they had to walk into a section to get to some of the residents to make sure they were okay, and left a few things for them. But like I said, we're just trying to do everything we can to do those courtesy checks to help the people that are needing it. And if we could give generators to everyone, we would. And if we could get the power done today, we would. It's just taking time. And we're just asking for everybody's patience and trying to get them where they can go to these warming stations.
So if someone feels like they can't get to a warming station and it's getting too cold in their house, is the recommendation to call 911 at that point? I'm talking about vulnerable individuals, not it's chilly. And I don't think there's anybody out there that's going to say, I'm calling because it's chilly, because it is extremely dangerously cold. Is the recommendation at that point to call 911 if you think that we're getting to a point where your life is in danger? I think that might be an obvious answer, but I just wanted to get it from you.
Yeah. Well, I would say any situation where you feel like you're in danger, the first call should be 911. Like I said, they are doing everything they can to get people what they need or to get people to check on others. So, in any event of an emergency, 911 should be their first call.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to add or tell folks at home?
No, like I said, we're just trying to get to all areas, and we are trying to get supplies, and power company and our district shops and our volunteers are trying to get out there to clear all the roads. And everybody wants the power on just as quick as they can get it and be able to move forward. So just thanks to everyone's patience, and know that we are out there working and we are out there to get everybody back on track.
Well, Peyton, I appreciate all your hard work. The many times we called and talked today, I know that your heart is really in trying to get this done as soon as possible, and that you are just giving it your all. We were going to try to get you on last night at 10 o'clock, but you were just too spent, and I completely get it. And so I know you have a lot of rough, long days ahead, as do many other people up there in Tishomingo County. Thank you so much for what you do, what you've done, and what you will do over the next coming days and weeks. Because unfortunately, I think as far as timeline goes, just to ask your opinion on this, as far as timeline goes, in some parts of the county, this is clearly going to be weeks.
It is. Like I said, hopefully, majority will see their power restored in the next day or so, but there are areas that it's going to take a while. Once they can get to find the problem, then take a while to fix the problem.
Yeah, it's one of the fun parts about living in a rural county. You get some beautiful, beautiful territory, but it also means some long stretches between folks, and in this case, trees coming down. Appreciate it, Peyton. Thank you so much for talking to us here on Mississippi Live Weather. If you have anything, you've got my cell phone number now. Bust right in during severe weather coverage or what have you. Just give me a call, all right?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's Peyton Burklight, the emergency manager there in the Tishomingo County area, joining us on Mississippi Live this evening. Some important points she mentioned there. Again, a number of warming shelters around the county, obviously contingent upon being able to get there. And there are parts of the county where that is extremely difficult. But power being restored to a number of schools, I believe in Burnsville there, as well as Iuka and Golden. I think middle schools in each of those cases, but the North Mississippi Storm Chasers do have a more complete list of those on their Facebook page. We've shared that a number of times. They're keeping that up to date. It's part of our coordination with them, is to kind of direct you back to them, because they've done such a spectacular job with that as well. But obviously, it is going to be it's easy in a house that has heat right now to say it's going to be about patience. But it's also going to be about perseverance over the course of the next days and weeks. Again, cold weather warning in effect, extreme cold warning for most locations here on the Mississippi side of things. We're going to have a complete look at your forecast here from the Room to Room Weather Center with our meteorologist Gabe Maynard and myself come up here in 60 seconds as Mississippi Live Weather continues right after this.
Game day brings its ups and downs, celebration and disappointment, anxiety and relief, friends and enemies. You can always argue over who should have won, but everyone can agree on great food. Appetizers, entrees, drinks, party platters, or even the taste of sweet victory. There's something for every season at Eat With Us restaurants.
Can I ask a few questions?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any pets?
Yes, we have a dog, but she's little.
Do you have any unlocked guns around the house?
We do have a gun, but it's stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access. Appreciate you asking.
Yeah, of course.
1 in 10 kids vape. Each vape pod can contain the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes.
The Health Class Film Guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
This portion of Mississippi Live Weather is presented by Little's Jewelers.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
Ice covered everything there in Pontotoc County. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lobhon. Thank you so much for supporting us, watching Mississippi Live Weather. Again, we've heard from a number of emergency managers. There's so many more that we're going to try to talk to over the next couple of days. I know that it's not happening fast enough. I know power restoration is taking too long in many of your opinions, and it is. But it's not necessarily anybody's fault at this point here. There's folks are working as fast as they can, and from the sounds of it, talking to officials, help is on the way. But I want to emphasize this again. One thing that Peyton mentioned that I think I need to definitely amplify here for a moment, which is if you feel like your life is in danger, your phone call should be to 911. And so while it is going to be cold, and there's a difference between cold and this cold could end my life. Gabe, again, encouraging folks that at least power is starting to come on more and more in some locations, and hopefully in the next couple of days that will become a more widespread. But tonight, I don't know if it could come fast enough because it is just so bitterly cold, right?
There's not enough time. There's not enough time to get all of the homes that are out of power restored before the extreme cold moves in. So that leaves.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get.
Sorry about that. Hit the wrong button. Okay, Gabe. We'll get back to that here in a second. Sorry about that. Let me go back here. Boy, the beauty of having this all set is that it's great when it works, and then when it doesn't, I messed that up. Sorry, Gabe.
You know,
there's Gabe.
I'm not going to complain at all about technology because there's power. That's where I'm just, my standards are very low at this point. When all we have is power, that makes me a happy man. So definitely just grateful that we
don't have power in Cleveland, do they?
They do not. I mean, look at what they have. I mean, we have one glimpse of the town.
That's not power. Think about the time of day outside.
Well, it's just the impact of ice set us. Oh, yeah, you're right.
No. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. A lot of these cameras don't have power still. So this was the last shot before power went out there in Cleveland. But the temperature is live. Is it 21? That seems a little warm, but I think that's pretty close to what it is right now. But it's going to drop a lot in the next couple hours, right?
Exactly. We'll be able to tell if it's live here in just a moment as those temperatures drop into this evening. But teens already being felt in North Mississippi, and with the impacts in Cleveland and all across that Tennessee state line, it's going to continue to be impactful into those overnight hours as that dangerous cold moves into place. So 21 degrees, whether that was in the past or the current, either way, it is dangerous already, and we're going down from there overnight, no matter where you are in North Mississippi. Taking a look there in Blue Springs, getting some reports over there in Union County of some downed trees and downed power lines that are still blocking travel in some of those county roads way back there off in that tree line. So folks out there in Union County, be watchful, be cautious, don't drive down any roads. Actually, don't drive in general if you don't have to, but don't drive down those roads. And of course, be on the lookout if you do have to get out this evening, as limbs, trees, power lines are still falling into those roadways. And unfortunately still dealing with those impacts tonight. Ice still on several of those trees, and with the extreme cold in place, that extreme cold warning across North Mississippi, that's going to allow for the refreeze potential into tonight. Now that's harmful for the trees as that ice continues to weigh on those trees and limbs and potentially dropping a few more tonight. But it's also impactful for roadways because we're talking about that extreme cold. Any of that moisture that's on those roads, even the slushy stuff that we've been driving on for several days now, that's going to refreeze tonight, make for some slick roadways and potentially result in some black ice in some spots that we'll look at here in just a moment. A little bit of an explainer as to why. But our Mama Justice Doppler radar not showing anything. And again, since temperatures are so cold, the clear air mode that's in place basically showing, well, it looks to be snowfall, not snowfall. Not impossible to get a flake, don't get me wrong, but not going to be getting this type of snowfall like on our radar showing right now. So it's usually, you see this in green, that's going to be that clear air mode return, meaning it's dry. And we do expect that to continue to be in place overnight, and those clear, dry conditions allowing for this cold air to move in. Let's look at temperatures right now and what has changed since 5 o'clock. And you're starting to see some of that purple north of Highway 6, right along Highway 72. Let's go ahead and populate that. Hernando, 16 degrees. Down there towards Batesville, 14 degrees. Holly Springs, 14. We're talking Ripley, 13. Corinth, 13. It's 6:30. 6:30, and we're already low teens. Dangerous cold moving in. Not just the cold. Let's go ahead and move it over to wind chill and talk about the wind chill and talk about the feels like values outside. And folks, keep in mind, all of these folks along the Tennessee state line, or at least most of them, still without power tonight at 6:30. So if we populate in those totals, let's go back through that same margin. Batesville, 16 degrees, feels like values. Hernando, feels like 6. Negative's a realistic possibility over there in DeSoto County. So please say a prayer for these people that are dealing with this extreme cold overnight, because yes, the winter weather is dangerous, but this is where the real life-threatening stuff moves into play, is whenever we're talking about these cold temperatures without a way to stay warm. And for some folks, they don't have an option. You know, travel is not an option because roadways are still blocked by that ice and that slushy mess that basically, if you get on the roads, you're going to slide right off. So not exactly a choice for everybody, and I do believe that prayer works, so please go ahead and say a prayer. Been praying behind the scenes, just hearing about all this damage from the EMA directors, and it's unbelievable, but we do realize that the next 24 hours are going to be what could potentially be the most hazardous part of this forecast. Holly Springs feels like 7 degrees. I do see a spot there in Corinth, close to Kossuth, about 6 degrees for those feels like values. And even around Ripley, 13 degrees feels like values. And across the state, I mean, I don't want to overlook certain areas. I'm just mostly concerned up there because of the lack of power. Grenada feels like 21. Greenwood feels like 13. Amory feels like values in the 15 degrees. Columbus, yes, that far south, feeling like 16 degrees. So wind chill going to be a factor. Temperature is going to be a factor, and definitely going to be a dangerous forecast for tonight, man. It's scary to look at. You know, the Maynard household last night, temperatures got into the upper teens here in Lee County, and our temperatures by 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night was at 28 degrees inside the house. You could see your breath.
It's scary, you know, and I have to admit, we have concentrated on the hardest hit. This has been, as we heard from one of the emergency managers, I think Tom Lindsay there up in Tippah County during the 5 o'clock broadcast, categorizing this as a catastrophic event, catastrophe. That is a significant descriptor for this. But the thing to keep in mind is that the power outages do extend for a ton of other places as well. I mean, Lafayette with tens of thousands out. Yalobusha, Grenada, I mean, this has been extremely significant. And when we look by percentage there, I mean, some of the most significant, you know, when you get out there, I talked to Joel Young, who I worked with at the TV station for a long time, you know, and you could tell, he's in Little Rock now. You could tell as he was discussing this, he remembered the 94 ice storm. He remembered a tree coming down, barely missing the house, and then describing how in this one, Tallahatchie County, there, Charleston area, tree comes down once again, barely misses poking through one of the windows. I mean, almost the exact same scenario. I'm not saying he had PTSD issues, but you could tell he was legitimately shaken up by the fact that this, I mean, happened again, the anxiety that goes with that, and the fact that it could have once again killed his family, but thankfully, by the grace of God, didn't. And that's unfortunately an awful shared experience for all the people that are in these high power outage areas. I mean, even just looking at this right there, when you look at that high percentage,
That's 100%, isn't it?
Down,
or close to it.
yeah, I mean, I thought it was too. Maybe that's not the way that color table ended up work out. I get the upper 90s, but 99, 95%. It's probably inaccurate for me to say that some of the hardest hit are up here in the Tennessee state line. I think that might be the greatest quantity of ice, but there is this zone down there for Chula, back to Carroll County, Montgomery County. We've got a lot of people to try to talk to, a lot of people that want to know information, and we're going to do the best we can to get that. But this is a small staff. It's me, it's Gabe, it's Maggie, it's Caleb, a few days a week. So it's going to take some time. But our thoughts and prayers are with you as you continue to go. And thoughts and prayers are worth about as much warmth as saying the two words are. I know that it takes more than that. And so we're trying the best we can to get answers and information so that we can get you that. But I think one of the things we want to emphasize, we said at 5, that came from the press conference from the governor earlier on today, is that the folks from the National Guard are going to be setting up at Camp McCain and starting to figure out how to distribute resources from there, or they're figuring it out already, but that's where that start, and they're hoping to get that in place tomorrow. Again, that's not soon enough for folks. I understand that, and I wish I had a better answer, but unfortunately I don't. I'm sorry for hijacking this portion of the show, but just to say that there's just so many people, that such a high percentage. I mean, you look at the number of people power out, that doesn't automatically pop up, but I think the overall impact comes on the percentage of people, and it's just a very, very high percentage here in Mississippi. Some of the hardest hit on this very long-lived ice storm, but entire country, some of the hardest hit places, Mississippi Delta and North Mississippi, unfortunately.
Matt, you're not hijacking any part of the broadcast. We've been covering this as a team, not just here on Mississippi Live Weather, but across North Mississippi. And so we're going to continue to combat this as a team. We're all in this together. We've all been dealing with power outages and dealing with this ice. And we're talking about some of the hardest hit areas. I mean, Maggie's in Senatobia, an area where there's still ice on the ground. The roadways are still basically impossible to travel on. And so, we're all praying together. And so, we're all praying together. Today clears out of the area, and we're left with those cold temperatures once again, especially where some of that ice remains in play and kind of reflected that heat out of the area. It's basically cooling off an already cold forecast, and we're getting that north of Highway 6. So if we look at these conditions into our Tuesday morning, of course, beautiful. Should be a beautiful sunrise, but unfortunately, it's a beautifully horrifying forecast because of how cold those temperatures are. Some of the areas we mentioned, Holly Springs, 4 degrees for those actual temperatures. We'll get into wind chills in just a moment. 6 in Tunica, 6 Senatobia, 5 in Corinth, 7 Iuka, even down south, 10 in Amory. And some of the areas that we were mentioning a moment ago, 11 in Grenada, 12 Greenwood, 14 Belzona, with a large portion of that county still out of power, or all these counties that I just mentioned that are basically west of 55 and along 55. It's just a scary time heading overnight, but ways that we can prepare is staying warm, staying bundled up together as a family, and honestly invite your neighbors over and just add more bodies to the collection so that way you can accumulate as much warmth as you possibly can. Of course, looking at that school day forecast, you can see that it is going to be a cold temperature around drop-off no matter where you're at in North Mississippi. I know some schools are resuming normal operations heading into Tuesday. A lot of them aren't, and that list is on our page on MississippiLiveWeather.com. So check that out and figure out if your school is still in session, but you can also use some of your guesstimations and understand if you're in school tomorrow based off of where things currently sit. 32 by lunch, and then yes, finally getting above freezing by the afternoon, 39 towards that final bell, and we are definitely appreciating that forecast. One of the things I just jumped over, and I do not want to at any point in this forecast jump over these wind chills, is of course, look at this graphic. I mean, look at the wind chill. 4 degrees Holly Springs, it feels like 0. 6 degrees Senatobia feels like -1. Same thing around South Haven. So feeling like the negatives will make those actual temperatures feel so much worse. And in some locations, that single digits dropping all the way to the negatives. -1 in Boonville. I know a lot of folks are still without power. And some of the homes that were basically have a hole in it from the trees falling into it, there's no way to insulate the house at that point. And that's where we hope that warming stations were available enough that you could get out there to it, or have family and friends come get you and take you to a better location, because overnight this is going to be the coldest temperatures of the year, the coldest temperatures of this winter season, and the coldest wind chills that we've seen in quite some time, probably since last year. So as we look at those wind chill values and even see the 15, 14 degree marks around Golden Triangle, 9 degrees Belzona, 7 degrees Greenwood, 13 in Grenada, wind chill is going to be impacting a large portion of us here in North Mississippi. So as we head about the school day, make sure to, of course, have those layers on standby, because they will be not just wanted, but needed for our school day forecast, especially heading out the door. Now, a big driver in this forecast is high pressure, still situated out there towards our south and west. And you see the winds, what direction they're coming from. It's still that northerly flow into the area, allowing for those cold temperatures to be in place for the start of our Tuesday, and also some of those wind chill values as well. As high pressure starts to shift a little bit out of the forecast, we do get a little bit of that moisture wrapping around. This is going to be some of those high-end cirrus clouds, but in all honesty, not going to do much in those skies, and that sun should make a decent amount of appearance throughout our Tuesday plans. That's a good thing, because temperatures will be above freezing and the sun will be out. Those two things together will help knock off some of this ice and make for a little bit better of a forecast for our Wednesday, and even by our Tuesday afternoon, things trending in the right direction. So I'm hoping that line of ice that we have across North Mississippi will start to recede just a bit and continue to move out of the area, because still devastation is in place as that ice does stick around. As we get into our Tuesday afternoon, you do see what's moving into the forecast, and that's going to be this cold front that's extending across Arkansas, Missouri, and Kentucky. This front going to be bringing cooler air by the end of the week. And yes, this dangerous cold forecast, even more of it is on the way heading into Friday and Saturday. So as we get into our Tuesday, though, because the front is still towards our north, we are going to be enjoying some slightly warmer conditions by the afternoon. You saw a little bit of that in our school day forecast. Let's go ahead and get into that with our high temperature forecast, bringing it back in here to North Mississippi. I know it's still cold. I know it's still well below our average for this time of year. But it has been about 4 days since we've seen temperatures above freezing, and we get that all across the northern half of the Magnolia State. 32 in South Haven is our coldest temperature by the afternoon, but we're seeing 40s in Water Valley, Bruce, Houston, Tupelo, 42 Starkville, Louisville, and Kosciuszko, and still going to be upper 30s for Belzona, Greenwood, and Grenada for those folks still without power, working our way west of 55. As we go through the rest of our Futurecast on our Tuesday night, you can see that we're not tracking too much action over the top of North Mississippi, aside from this front that is trying to work its way through the area. Now that's going to be moving in throughout our Wednesday, and the effects of it, like I mentioned, going to be felt more by Friday and Saturday. But this front, I mean, you can see, going to be pushing a little bit of moisture in there with it. Those are some partly cloudy conditions for the start of our Wednesday, but high pressure back behind it. That's going to keep our forecast dry. So Wednesday, not seeing any drop of anything in our forecast. That consists of rain, freezing rain, snow, sleet. No, none of that in our forecast to start out our Wednesday. But temperatures, the cold air, that still sticks around with 14 in South Haven, Senatobia, 22 Greenwood, 23 Belzona, 21 Kosciuszko, and 16 around Houston. So kind of similar to what we had this morning, getting that by Wednesday morning, but at least it's better than Tuesday. That's one thing we can guarantee. As we keep it going throughout our Wednesday forecast, continue to see those partly cloudy skies overhead, and we'll continue to see that in place throughout our Wednesday mid-morning and afternoon activities. But like we talked about at 5, a lot of these partly cloudy skies not actually going to be in the form of cloud cover. You see how it kind of burned up as we went through our morning commute and our morning plans? That's because this is fog. And fog, that's moisture, and moisture paired with these temperatures, resulting in freezing fog. That could potentially make roadways hazardous once again, doing a thin layer of ice. And like I mentioned at 5 o'clock, we're going to be talking about black ice later on in this broadcast, kind of assessing that in more detail, because that is a possibility Wednesday morning, continues to be a possibility Tuesday morning with temperatures sitting where they're at. But nonetheless, that's going to be that patchy fog that we get for our Wednesday, start of Wednesday, and even into those mid-morning timeframes. I mean, watch this again. See how it just burns up by 9 to 10, 11 a.m.? So that's that fog that we're worried about in our Wednesday morning forecast. By the afternoon, a large part of that burns on up, and we're going to be left with those mostly clear skies. Should be a beautiful day Wednesday once that fog does clear out. But into the nighttime hours, that's where we could see some of that cloud cover build into the forecast. No chances of anything, like I mentioned a moment ago, no winter precip or rain in that forecast. It's just going to be a dry but partly cloudy forecast overnight into our Thursday. Wednesday afternoon, continuing to trend in the right direction with temperatures in the mid to upper 30s, northwest part of the area. You can kind of see where that ice has really been the most prominent from Clarksdale all the way up the Tennessee state line, where those mid to upper 30s line up. Down south, we're going to be in the low to mid 40s, and 47 Macon, 46 Louisville. Definitely not complaining about that forecast. Belzona, Greenwood, Greenville, still around 39 degrees, and 37 towards Cleveland again, where the highest impacts were felt, kind of working around that same general area when those high temperatures are in the upper 30s. But as we look at that 7-day forecast, you can see it's going to be cold for the next several mornings. Not going to be as cold as some. I mean, Tuesday, 7 degrees. That is, of course, the low on our screen. But as we work into our forecast, and forgive me right here, I do not know why that is there. So we're going to actually pull this one up instead. As we get into our 7-day forecast, you can see that it is going to be a cold one for our Tuesday with 7 degrees for the start of the day. But as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, low temperatures continue to be in the upper teens and low 20s. High temperatures, low to mid 40s. Wednesday, Thursday, that's going to be the warmest it'll be all week long, because by Friday, 20 degrees to start, only getting to around freezing by the afternoon. And then the significant drop moving in Saturday with 10 degrees as our low, 27 degrees by the afternoon. Sunday, similar conditions, 11 degrees heading out the door for those church plans, and 36 degrees by the afternoon. But should be a beautiful forecast by then. Potentially a flurry, not going to amount to anything, potentially a flurry by the end of the week with how cold those temperatures are, and a little bit of moisture in the forecast, but fortunately, no accumulation expected. All that, the main significant parts of that system further towards our south in the Gulf. But nonetheless, those cold temperatures by Saturday and Sunday, I'm hoping those power outages get restored for all of us in North Mississippi, and we'll have some heat to accommodate these cold temperatures, unlike what we're having for our Tuesday. So coming up here in the next 60, we are going to be assessing a little bit more on some of those concerning issues overnight. The extreme cold, but also the black ice potential with the water that's still in the roadways. And it's not going to be a problem for everybody, but a problem for some. And we're going to assess that in more detail of who can be experiencing this here on Mississippi Live Weather at 6 in the next 60. Oh, I got to click on it in the back. Bear with me one moment.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu.
We don't have time for delays.
We don't have time for spills.
Next.
We don't have time for setbacks. Let's be real.
Getting the flu shot
helps you fight the flu.
Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you too.
What I thought was a complete life was nowhere near complete. But it is now.
Learn about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org.
Drone shots. Oh, nope, it's me. Working on stuff. Hold on. I'll send it back there. I have a place I can sit here. Anyway, it's cold, really cold. And I have some, you know what? I'll see if I can get these drone shots up. Might as well make it worth our while to come to me, right? Because I was going to post them on the page. Just working on that. So if I get my mouse to the right spot here, let's just see if we can pull it up. So give me about 15, 20 seconds because there's some pretty cool ones. That'd be one. There we are. Okay. I wasn't surprised at all, Gabe. It wasn't me. Ice Storm Matt and browser. There we are. Okay, iced in there. I think Anderson was the name of the person who sent us these shots up there in Boonville, up near the northeast campus. Obviously, that'd be the baseball fields there, and the back toward the football field. I mean, just everything is ice, ice, ice. As you can see, like is the case in a lot of places, because it was primarily freezing rain. It melts pretty quickly on roads. Still waiting for more of that to melt on the trees, but it will eventually here soon. You're not gonna let me just preview it, okay? See if we'll go to the next one and do the same thing, because this next one's pretty good. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll pull that one up. I think it was this one here. Or is that the short one? Wrong window. We're gonna make it here, y'all. There we go. A little blurry, moving a little fast, but everywhere, all directions that eyes can see, lots and lots of ice out there. It's going to take a little while. Hopefully more of that with the sunshine on the way. Gabe ends up trying to melt down tomorrow. But again, everything related, this is probably going to take just a little more time as things continue to progress there. So I'll let you talk more about those cold weather alerts. Sorry, we used my show on that, and I forgot it was going to come back to me for the C block. Back to you.
Well, it just knows that you haven't been on air enough, Matt. What can I say? No, we were joking behind the scenes. It's like, Matt, I think you've worked like all 96 hours the past 4 days. So really grateful for Matt staying on air and, of course, having the backup generator on Sunday. You know, I went down at 12, I think it was 12:13 Sunday morning, and I was like, well, dang, I won't be able to be on air at all for Sunday. But, you know, Matt and the team held down the fort, and they did a great job. So I want to give them a shout out. Was tuned in all day, kind of watching where things were standing, and they did a great job. So, yeah, Matt, enjoy a break for C Block. I got you covered. Taking a look at those cold weather alerts. As Matt was talking about, we are under that extreme cold warning, and why that is issued. So whenever temperatures are going to be below 10 degrees and, of course, feels like values below that same margin, we're getting exactly that, not just in Lee County. But you can see all of those areas listed in the dark blue, Oxford included as well, and Lafayette County, Hernando and DeSoto County, Boonville and Prentice County, Clarksdale there towards Coahoma County, Cleveland and Bolivar, Greenville, Washington, Chula, Holmes County, Kosciuszko, there in Itala County. And I want to note, even for counties down south, I mean, Macon and Noxubee County under an extreme cold warning. I'm pretty sure, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, based off the school closings list, that folks, Golden Triangle and South are going to school tomorrow. It should be back in session, but it is going to be with some pretty cold conditions. And so if you are headed to school tomorrow, it's still going to be dangerous in the fact that it's just some extreme cold weather. But if you aren't headed to school tomorrow, you're still dealing with those extreme cold conditions. My favorite weather watcher out in the field, my beautiful bride, telling me that in Juneau, Alaska, the cold temperature, or the low temperature for tomorrow is 36 degrees. You know what our low temperature is? 7.
I hate that comparison. I hate it. And it's nothing. And I love your wife.
It's unreal.
She's smarter, more beautiful, but it's every time. So here's why, because the reason it's that warm there is because the cold air all came here. It's like everything empties out of the north, and then it's like, hey, look at us. We're warm. If that's the warmest you get this time of year, I think there's a reason we're in Mississippi, but
we didn't ask for it. We moved down here to avoid it. We didn't move to Alaska. We don't want the cold air. So
I know.
Juneau. Sorry, I had to. It was right there in front of me, Matt. But anyway, back to the conditions in Mississippi. Yes, so extreme cold overnight, single digits going to be expected. And yes, it's going to be as cold as Alaska here in North Mississippi for the next several days. So yes, not the forecast we asked for, not the forecast anyone wanted, but the reason why it's concerning. And Matt was mentioning a moment ago a good point. You know, freezing rain more likely to melt. And that's what exactly happened today, yesterday, as that rainfall and freezing rain cleared out, is some of our roads just got better to drive on. But as you can take a look, we're talking about black ice for the 6 o'clock broadcast because some areas did not solely get freezing rain. If you've seen some of the posts I've been showing on Facebook, Highway 72 still coated in sleet and water and snow in some aspects, but nonetheless, it's still on the roads. So black ice is a realistic possibility, and that's that very thin layer of ice that accumulates on the pavement. So for some areas where it looks like it's melted and it's good to go, there's tire tracks that have helped pack it down. It's actually made it worse because those temperatures are below 32 degrees, and this icy layer you see on the surface right there continues to be a possibility and unfortunately a hazard whenever we're talking about that morning commute. So as we take a look at that forecast, that snow melting during the day, that's similar to what we got today with those sunny skies and those clear skies that melted the moisture that we had in the air, and all of that water that falls from the trees and falls from the houses and falls from the snow that's on the roads, that melts during the day and unfortunately turns to ice at night. So that's where we're getting some of that black ice development along 72. Do not recommend driving if you're in any of those Tennessee neighboring counties. But as we look at the other forecast, there's that rain that we've been dealing with. That was that icy surface we had earlier on before the sun melted it. But then as we get into Wednesday morning, you heard me mention the potential for freezing fog. That's where those water droplets in the fog, because it's got a ton of moisture here at the surface, they're going to freeze instantly on some surfaces that are below 32 degrees. And there will be some in North Mississippi. And so freezing fog is another hazard we'll need to look at getting into that extended forecast on top of the winter storm we've been dealing with, on top of single-digit temperatures. I'm so ready for it to be summer. I'm so ready for this forecast to move out of here. And you might remember back a month ago, I wanted cold air. Now I'm done. I'm done with cold air. Winter, you've had your time, you've had your fun. Ooh, summer vacation can't come soon enough. Day planner tonight. Like I said, summer vacation can't come soon enough. 15 degrees by 8, 10 degrees there by midnight. Clear skies all night long. That's the only benefit we have in this forecast. But even then, clear skies are allowing it to cool off this much. So folks, it's going to be a bone-chillingly cold night. And even that's an understatement where we're talking about these temperatures. We want to layer up. We want to have door surrounding us. Insulate one of the rooms that you're staying in. Make sure it's a smaller room. A few tips on my page, like I mentioned a moment ago. My wife and I, right before the power went out, she got our house prepped and ready, and we prepared one of the rooms for it. And I saw one of the folks asking, it's like, well, Gabe, you left the house. Did it even work? It did. So our house was just so cold at that point that it dropped. It was 20 degrees outside. Our house was in the upper 20s in the living room. Where we insulated the bedroom was actually in the low 40s, low 50s. So more bearable than 20s. But by that point, whenever your wife is 7 months pregnant, you do what you can to take care of her. So we did exactly that. But if you do not have those abilities to get to where you need to go to stay warm, some of those insulation methods are there. Warm those or get those candles up. We do have a makeshift furnace that we put together in a safe way. But anything that we could do. So whenever we're talking about that, whenever we're talking about the extreme cold, I actually just got a reminder from my wife letting me know that still drip those faucets tonight. Open up those cabinets if you do have power. And Matt, you were talking to me about something, I believe yesterday, about turning off the water completely. And feel free to chime in right here for any of those prevention methods that we have. Turning off the water completely, draining out the faucet so there's no water in the pipes. Why is that better than the slow drip when we're talking about temperatures reaching the single digits?
Well, it's not when we're talking about temperatures reaching the single digits, and we're talking about, there's nothing inside your house to insulate it, right? Mm-hmm. Like if your power's out and it's cold on the inside, then it's just going to freeze. It's just a matter of time. So if it's going to freeze, then the odds of it breaking are greater. And so if the odds of it breaking are greater, then you want to limit the amount of water that spills out when it does break after it's done freezing. And so the idea is that way, if you turn it off, perhaps then it does not just burst and keep going, keep drawing in more and more water, and then cause massive amounts of water damage. I believe that's the theory behind it. Behind turning it off there. I'll be honest, I got that advice from a friend during a 60-second commercial break during wall-to-wall ice storm coverage. So I have not gone back for more clarification because I thought, I think that's simple. That's something we can do.
No, makes sense.
Go and I think it's going to break. Let's turn it off and do that. So anyway.
Well, you told me that whenever we'd already gotten to my mom-in-law's house. And so I was like, at that point, you know what? We're already here. I don't want to get back on the roads. And I was praying disappointing that it did not. Luckily, the pipe home today. But trust me, if we were still having to be out of town tonight with power outages, then I would probably just drain all my water, because this is where it could really freeze. Like you mentioned, no insulation in the house starts to feel like the air outside. And if it feels like the air outside, single digits, more susceptible to those freezing pipes. And that will, of course, burst those pipes in the process, or have a higher likelihood to. And we want you guys to stay safe and not come home to a house that's filled with water at that point. But any preparations we can do that to accommodate this awful cold air, make sure to do it. And of course,
you're still up.
I'm still up? Okay, perfect. Our next broadcast is at 10 o'clock to assess these temperatures in more detail, but you're going to hear a lot of the same, a lot of the nowcasting talking about that cold air. So make sure to stay safe tonight. Get those preparations in place now. And by the time we reach tomorrow morning, you'll be grateful that you did. We'll have more updates on that coming up at 10 o'clock. We'll see you there.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. You know, we knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lawpon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lawpon has proven himself trustworthy.